What's going on, people? It's me, Dustin Coyle. Once again, you're tuned into the goddamn best podcast that I'm aware of. This is Intelligent Thoughts. This show is going to be the NBA Today for April 17th of 2019. We're knee-deep in the fucking playoffs. I think we're about 4 days in. Had a few upsets. So far, it's been pretty fucking sweet. I know everybody's been watching it. I know everybody gone on to Facebook and liked the Intelligent Thoughts page. So, also on one, that's the number one there, Intelligent THO, and the number one. And how about Instagram at Intelligent B Thoughts, the word B. That's right, in between Intelligent Thoughts. I appreciate it. Love to hear some feedback from anybody who's listening to the show. Here in just a second, we're going to recap all of the games that have happened so far this playoffs this year. And we're going to preview the three for tonight. We're going to talk about Russell Westbrook, Kyle Lowry, DeMarcus Cousins, Damian Lillard, Joel Embiid, Blake Griffin, and more shit. It's going to be a good podcast here. Before we start the show, let's listen to some fucking music. That's enough of that shit here. I'll let that run in the background here for a second. We are back, as I said. It is the NBA Today for April 17th, 2019. Big news here for the defending champion before we get into the recap. Big news coming out for the defending champion, hopeful three-peat champions, Golden State Warriors. They lose Boogie Cousins for the remainder of the season, and whichever team vows to sign him for next season is also going to miss him again for a significant portion of the season. Not a lot unlike what just happened this year at the end of his contract in the contract year here for Boogie Cousins. He tears his left quad out indefinitely. It will require surgery. As everybody remembers, he's coming off of a torn Achilles tendon that he tore probably about 13 months ago, a little over a year ago. He didn't make his debut until January. It was about a 10-month layoff there for Boogie Cousins. This is obviously going to be another major, major setback for DeMarcus. And I think it actually might be a blessing in disguise for the Golden State Warriors a little bit. But as far as DeMarcus Cousins, like I said, this was his contract year. He was hoping for a big contract, took a one-year contract this year to try to prove himself again in Golden State. Was hoping to get a big contract, around the max, $20 to $30 million from somebody, and there was rumors that the Lakers could be that team right now. However, this is about the worst possible thing that could happen for either DeMarcus or anybody that was interested in DeMarcus. Tore his quad, very serious soft tissue injury, obviously. Not as serious as the Achilles tendon, but not much better, honestly. Don't be surprised if Cousins might even have to sign maybe like a low-level extension, a veteran's minimum type of a contract. I wouldn't be surprised unless, again, he's going to take another 1 year contract, which wouldn't pay anything like what he's getting this year. I think he was getting $17 million this year. But I mean, a 1 year contract, I just can't imagine anybody's going to take a flyer on him longer than that. And even the teams that would do that are probably teams that have they feel just like this year have a realistic shot of winning the championship. Really, really bad news for DeMarcus. Obviously, hope he gets well. But yeah, as far as the Golden State Warriors, like I kind of dropped a little Easter egg on you a second ago. As I was saying, Golden State has actually had, as has been reported and talked about over the past week or so, they've actually had a better scoring margin, team scoring margin, with the lineup of the Big Four and Iguodala than they have with the Big Four and DeMarcus Cousins, mainly due to just Iguodala's ability to play high-level defense still, at this a little bit older than he was, 3 years ago when he was D'ing up LeBron very well. But still damn good, long, still athletic. And yet they had continued to start DeMarcus and with understanding, because he does change the dynamic in a lot of ways of what you're able to do. He's also more talented than Iguodala for sure. So it kind of does go hand in hand that you want to start it. But I think this is actually somewhat of a blessing in disguise for the Warriors, because now it's going to kind of backhand force them into playing what actually is their best lineup. And I think defensively, the Warriors are a great three-point shooting team, obviously. They hold almost all the records for three-point shooting, at least Curry and Clay, Kevin Durant. I think all of them have hit 50, 40, 90 seasons. But that's actually that revolutionized the game, but that's not why they won 4 championships, or 3 championships, I guess it is at this point. The reason that they've won 3 championships was based on defense. And I mean, if you remember the first championship they won against Cleveland, Andre Iguodala was actually the NBA Finals MVP because of primarily the defense that he played on LeBron James during that series. I mean, it really made it difficult for LeBron to do anything. The Warriors dominated the series. I think it was 5 games. I'm not entirely positive on that, but I think it was a 5-game series, and then Andre Iguodala was the NBA Finals MVP. Fantastic. It's going to be a fantastic addition, I think, as far as this just being in their starting lineup. And Clay had been all NBA defense. Really, Steph Curry was their only really negative player as far as defense is concerned, and then he provides so much offensively that it more than made up for that. But, I mean, this is who the Warriors are. They were actually built as a defensive team. That's why they played so well in the playoffs. So primarily, I mean, obviously the shooting helps, but shooting doesn't always work that way, we know from what happened with the Houston Rockets last year. Obviously, going, I think, 0 for 27, or they missed 27 3-pointers or whatever in their final game, Game 7 against the Warriors. Shooting, you can go cold. You're not always guaranteed to make shots, and that even has happened with this season with Clay and Steph Curry. Both of them have had at least periods where they were slumping, at least for their lofty standards that they have. So I actually think that this is going to bring a lot more focus onto the defensive end of the game, and it'll probably, rather than, I mean, it basically, Clay will probably still guard the best guard, but now Iguodala, I mean, basically it frees up Kevin Durant to block shots. It frees up Iguodala to kind of just make plays defensively. Clay to do his thing, Draymond to do his thing. I mean, that's a pretty goddamn lineup, good lineup defensively there. And so I actually think it's going to be a good thing going forward. We'll see that. I don't think they play tonight. They're in the midst of a tough series, actually, with the Los Angeles Clippers. We're going to get into that in the recap section here in a little bit. But I did want to start off with the DeMarcus Cousins talk. As far as news that isn't related to any of the games, Blake Griffin was hobbled down the end of the stretch run of the regular season. I don't think he actually played in the final game. He was also ruled out. I read like 2 days ago that he was ruled out for the entire first round series. It turns out just late yesterday or early today that it comes back that he is possible to play tonight in Game 2. So as far as stuff that isn't related directly to a game, this is pretty much the only other piece of news that I have. Blake tweaked his knee with about 8 games left in the regular season. Had one good game after that or so where he dropped 45, I think, against OKC, and then hasn't played since then. after game one, he said that if it was up to him, he would have played, but it wasn't his decision. So I'm not entirely sure what to read from that. I'm guessing it was a medical decision between the staff and the coach. But that's probably what prompted Blake to be actually possible to play in this game, and I guess probable to play moving forward, you'd imagine. He said as long as it's just pain, he can go ahead and go with that. And then there hasn't really been a statement from Detroit or anything else as far as that's concerned. But possibility that we're going to see Blake Griffin tonight in Game 2. Alrighty, enough of that talk there. Let's get into the recaps of the playoff games that have already happened. Let's hop in the time machine here real quick, and I'll take you back to last Saturday, or just this Saturday, the one that just happened, 4 days ago. 4 games in the day. 2 pretty solid upsets, 1 small upset, and 1 that kind of just went as expected. The first game of the day was the first upset of the day in the first playoff game of the season. D'Angelo Russell comes up with a strong second half, finishes with 26 points, 25 shots to get there, but played well in the second half. Caris LeVert, 3 for 3 from downtown, 23 off of the bench. And the Brooklyn Nets go into Philadelphia and beat the 76ers 111 to 102. Joel Embiid, really the only bright spot, or Boban. Boban played well too, but Joel Embiid, 22 points, 15 boards on 15 shots, 0 for 5 from downtown. That was the tough part. Just 1 foul for Embiid, but not enough to get this done. Boban with 13 points on 5 for 7 in 15 minutes. 4 assists for Boban too. That was a big one. J.J. Redick, 5 points in 23 minutes on 2 for 7 shooting. Ben Simmons, in 32 minutes, 9 points, 7 rebounds, just 3 assists on 4 for 9 shooting. Tobias Harris, 4 points in 41 minutes on 2 for 7 shooting. Oh, yeah, my bad. I missed the Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler pretty much dominated the game. 36 points in 22 minutes. Him and Joel Embiid were the only bright spots. But Tobias Harris with a 4-point night. Ben Simmons can't get into double digits. J.J. Redick can't get into double digits. Makes just 2 baskets. Mike Scott, 1 for 8 from downtown, 3 points in 32 minutes. He played more minutes than Embiid actually did. Embiid got kind of retweaked his knee, I think, a little bit at the end of the first half. I think he missed the last 8 minutes of the first half. And then played pretty sparingly otherwise. Obviously dominant in what he did play, 22 points in 24 minutes. But Jimmy Butler was really the only person scoring points for the 76ers. Really tough. Great defense for Brooklyn in general. Really was a good defensive game. Offensively, really just D'Angelo and Caris LeVert walled off. Dinwiddie added 18 points. But yeah, a dominant win, honestly. It was... After the first quarter, it was a relatively even game, but I think Brooklyn was up by 15 at the end of the first quarter. The Philadelphia 76ers have been the best team in the first quarter for, I think, the majority of the season. I believe they actually finished with the best scoring differential for first quarter than any other team in the NBA. Not to be the case, though, here in Game 1. Big win there for the Brooklyn Nets. All right, how about the second game of the playoffs? Gets us the second upset so far. DJ Augustine, of all random people, balls out, 9 for 13, 4 for 5 from downtown. He finishes with 25 points and 6 assists. Evan Fournier, 16 points, and then 5 other players in double figures for the Orlando Magic, and they win 104 to 101 over the Toronto Raptors in Canada. For the Raptors, they were led by a pair, Kawhi Leonard and Pascal Siakam. Kawhi Leonard finishes with 25 points.